Hope my screen is visible. So
Yes,
before
visible.
getting it, thank you. Before getting into today's new topics, let's quickly revise what we've discussed yesterday. So if anyone has missed yesterday's class, they can also know what we discussed yesterday, right? So first we've seen the introduction, wherein what was SAP. SAP is a German company which is used to create or integrate your business processes by using the ERP module or Enterprise Resource Platform module. SAP stands for System Application and Products. Then we have seen what are all the modules in SAP. So in general, we had functional and technical. In functional, we have SD, which is sales and distribution, MM, which is material management, FICO, which is finance and controlling, PM, which is plant maintenance. We'll have other functional modules as well, but I have only highlighted the ones which are mostly used in the companies. Then in technical, we'll have first ABAP. ABAP stands for Advanced Business Application Programming. Then Basis, who will take care of all your admin activities. Then BW, that is Business Warehousing. Then BODS. Later on, we've seen what are the benefits of choosing ABAP over other modules. The first and most important one is your global clients. You will be working in India and your clients will be in other regions across the world, because of which while taking the requirement or if there is an issue in the existing application, a user is going to reach out to you in abnormal times, right? Which is not in your working hours, because of which you'll have to extend your work hours to take that requirement. But since you'll be the technical team, you'll never talk to or you'll never connect with the client directly. Instead, your functional teams will connect. So that is one benefit, that you don't need to extend your work hours every day. Then communication doesn't matter here, because again you will not be directly talking to your client, so you'll only be communicating with your colleagues or your functional consultants who belong to your own company. That's it. Then since the requirement for ABAP is more compared to any other functional teams, you will have a larger team, due to which if you are stuck at any given point of time in your requirement, there are people who can reach out, who you can reach out to, and they'll be able to get you through. Then for any kind of system issues, you will not be responsible, your base system will be responsible, so you will not be working in abnormal hours again. Because of all these factors, it's more flexible to be an ABAPer rather than being any other technical or functional consultant. Then, for whom is SAP ABAP suitable? First, SAP functional consultants who are already working in SAP, but now they want to switch or they want to be a techno-functional guys, because of which they might be interested in learning ABAP. So this is suitable for them. Second, students and recent graduates, also called as a trained freshers. We call them, not we don't call them freshers, we call them the trained freshers. So, who wants to start their journey in the software industry? ABAP is suitable for you people. Then career changes. These are the people who might already be working in some non-technical field, but now are looking for a more stable career in the software field. Then, why SAP is better than other existing programming languages? So first, it's a pretty easy coding language. It's like English only. So it's like reading or writing English. So if you're good at reading or writing basic English, you can easily code in ABAP. Second, it's integrated with SAP systems. Like if at any given point of time, let's say at 5 years later or 10 years later, if you are bored of ABAP and you want to explore new things after a certain point of time, it's easier to you to switch to other modules rather than completely going out of SAP. You can cross train yourself in any other module, and you'll be called as a techno-functional guy. Or if you're exploring more on the technical side, you like Fury and all, you'll be a full stack developer. Then better opportunities due to its flexibility. That means because we'll have more requirement in technical area, because you'll have to create reports for each and every module. Here you will have better openings rather than any other functional area out there. Then finally, SAP community and support. at any given point of time, if you are stuck with something, let's say you know the keyword that should be used there, but you're not aware of the syntax that should be written there. So in that case, you can directly Google saying that give me a syntax of read table. It will redirect you to SAP community or some other blog, and from there you can get it. If you are getting any error, just copy paste that error in the Google or in SAP community, you'll get a result, because SAP community has been there since last 30-40 years, and there are professionals sitting in this SAP community who has already faced the issue that you are gonna get, and they've already given a solution for that. Then, uh, very briefly, we've seen what are all the responsibilities of an ABAP consultant. First is the requirement analysis, wherein your functional team will be taking the requirement from the customer or from your client. Once they gather the requirement, they'll be preparing a functional document highlighting on a high level what are all the things that should be developed, like how should my selection screen be, how should the output should be, etc., etc. All these things they'll be mentioning it in the functional document. So your responsibility is to take the verbal communication take the verbal requirement from your functional team and analyze the document, then start your development. So once your development is complete, make sure that it's programmatically correct. It's not gonna affect any system performance. So once that is done, you will document it. Documentation is nothing but whatever your develop. If you created a table, mention the table name, the field's name, why you have created this table, etc., etc. Then the ERP architecture, wherein yesterday we've seen it with an example of how a chocolate factory works, right? So first, procuring the raw materials. Once the raw materials are procured, they are processed in the production or MFG team. Once they are processed, they will be stored in the inventory, which is in your inventory management. So once after storing it in the inventory, once you get an order, you will create a sales order which comes into your SD. After a sales order is created, you'll ship it. You'll ship your order. That comes under SCM shipments. Once the shipment reaches your consumer, it's called delivery. So the delivery will also be taken care by your SCM guys. So once the delivery is complete, you'll do the billing, which is called as invoicing. Once the invoicing is done, it's accounting. So invoicing will also come partially under your sales order only, but your accounting will be taken care by FIC. So this is what we've seen yesterday. Then today, let's see. There is an architecture called as a R3 architecture or a Tier 3 architecture. Right, so this is an R3 architecture or Tier 3 architecture. So this is slightly different between our ECC and HANA systems. See, when I say ECC and HANA systems, ECC is the conventional way or a conventional database that we had earlier to when HANA is introduced. So ECC stands for your ERP central component. So ECC ERP central component. ERP, Enterprise Resource Platform. Whereas your HANA stands for uh, high performance analytical application or appliance. So the primary difference, if I have to say, between ECC and your HANA systems will be on the database level. So what is a database? It's used to store your data. We'll get in detail on what is a database, etc. things. But for now, just understand that the database used in ECC systems were third-party databases. So when I say third-party databases, SAP didn't had its own database until they came up with HANA system. So they used to use either Oracle or SQL or any other service providers before HANA. So that is your ECC systems. But in HANA system, when it comes to HANA, SAP has their inbuilt or in-house database, which is called as a HANA database. So that is a key difference between ECC and HANA system. So there are more differences too. So, but yeah, we'll see that as we move further, we'll see more differences as in such. But first, let's see the R3 architecture or Tier 3 architecture of ECC. So here you will be getting trained in both how an ECC system works and how an HANA system works too. The reason being, Mostly the implement, if you are getting any implementation projects after your training, in most of the cases those will be on your HANA systems, right? Because more people are interested to be in HANA system and they're implementing new things. But if you're getting any support project, like there's a project that is already existing, but they are looking for an ABAPer who can, fix some daily running issues or do some minor changes to the existing applications and all. In that case, you will find ECC systems there. So to cover these both, we will be training you in both ECC and HANA systems. So R3 is nothing but, since we will be having three lines or three phases of how things work in the background. So that is the reason this is called as a tier 3 or 3-tier architecture. So here first layer is called as a presentation layer. The second layer is called as application layer. The third and final layer is called as database layer. So first, so the data is going to flow from your application, sorry, presentation to application, then, oh, sorry, application to database, then a response will be sent from your database layer to application, and application to your presentation servers. So this is in general how it works. Right. So here presentation layer is nothing but the SAP screen that you're gonna see on your laptop or desktop or any other appliance. So for example, I'm using my SAP in this laptop. So whatever I see here in the front end on the screen, this is called my presentation layer. So this presentation layer is used to show the input and output data. Like for example, if I want to enter something or if I want to see something output, like after processing the logic, we want to see the output. For that purpose, the presentation layer is used. This is used to show the input and output. This is the purpose of your presentation layer. So once you have given a command, once you have given your selection criteria to extract the details, that should process somewhere, right? After you given your input, it should process somewhere. That processing happens inside your application layer. Right? So all the processing happens on application layer. Then finally, once the command that you have given, once the logic is processed in the background, then it should extract some data from the database. Like, see, our responsibility is to extract the data from the database and show it in a readable format to the user. So this in general is what we are gonna do. So, and our priority will always be in ECC systems. I'm telling, in ECC systems, since we are using third-party database, our priority should always be such that less number of load or less load should be there on the database. We should not put more load on database because these are third party databases and are very fragile. So less load on database. So That is the reason I have said after your development we'll have to do our performance tuning. So this is very very important. If we don't make sure that our code is efficient, then it might have a load on the database. So first, again, let me repeat what we just seen. First, so this is a very important topic because we have to know like how we should build our code or how things work in the background when you are doing something in the front end, right? So this is very very important for you to understand. So first, in ECC system, we'll have three layers. That since we have three layers, it's called as a three-tier architecture. So first layer is called as a presentation layer, which is nothing but our screen or the uh, thing that we see in SAP, like all the pop-up screens, dialog screens, selection screens, everything that you see on your laptop screen is called as a presentation layer, via which we will either give the input or we'll see the output. That is the purpose of your presentation layer. So once you have given your input, it goes to your application layer. Inside the application layer, all the processing happens. Like for example, I've written 5 plus 6, right? It is a arithmetic operation, it's a mathematical operation. So this processing of 5 plus 6 will be happening inside our application server, right? In you'll be giving the input from of 5 and 6 from your presentation server. The mathematical operation will be happening on your application layer. Since there is no need of extracting the data in this case, it will directly go to presentation layer. But let's say if I'm trying to extract some data from the database with a select query, in that case it will again try to hit the database. It will try to find if that data is existing in the database or not. If it is existing, then it will push the data from database layer to application layer. So once I have extracted my data from the database layer, if I want to do any further processing, like let's say I've got 15 fields from my database layer. Now I want to combine these 15 fields into 10 fields. I want to combine 2 3 fields into one field when I'm showing the output to the user. In like, such kind of processing, such kind of post processing logic also happens on your application layer. So once the complete logic is processed, after there is nothing to process, then the output will be pushed onto your presentation server, which is nothing but your screen. So there we can see our output. So all this happens within fraction of seconds. So if I'm just executing something, it will take not even 1 second. That depends again on how efficient your code is, how large the output is. Normally, it will not even take a second. It will show you the output. So this is how your R3 architecture and ECC will work. Any doubts on this, anyone? Okay. Moving on, we'll see the R3 architecture. HANA 3-tier architecture. See, this is similar to what we had here, but there are just a very minor difference. Right? So even in HANA 3-tier architecture, our layers are gonna be the same. Like we'll have presentation layer, we'll have application layer, we'll have database layer. These layers will stay the same, and the purpose of the presentation layer also will remain the same. It is used to show the input and output. But when it comes to application layer, very minimal processing will be happening on your application layer. Right? Very minimal processing of logic will happen on the application layer. And since HANA is a in-house database, SAP knows how it works. SAP know how to manipulate it. Like so, for that reason, most of the processing is switched to database layer. So that means we can put more load on database in HANA systems. right? Most processing happens on the database layer. Right. Even from here, from the presentation server, we'll give our input, output, whatever we want to see, whatever we want to get, we'll give the input. After which the command goes to your application server. In the application server layer or server, it's called both. So in application server, your processing, initial processing will happen. Then it will try to hit your database. So in the database, if it finds the data, it will pick the data. And in while picking the data itself, if you want to code something, if you want to do something while extracting the data, only process something, that can also be done in the HANA systems. So that means there are a few extensions in the code that we can write in HANA system. So those are called as ABAP 7.4 syntaxes. We'll be taking you through those syntaxes as well when we get into the actual coding part. So because of these new syntaxes, you can put more load on database. Like in conventional method, normal older ways of writing the code, our priority will always be on putting less load on the database. But here, if you use new syntaxes, we'll put more load on the database here. Don't worry, the syntaxes are pretty simple. There is no much difference between old and new syntaxes. If you are aware of the old syntaxes, you can easily work on new syntaxes. There are very, very minor differences. Right. So once your data is extracted, it is processed on top of your database layer. It is then sent to your application layer, wherein we have to make sure that minimal processing or normal processing happens on your application layer, and then that can be pushed over to your presentation layer. So this is how our HANA architecture will work. So mostly it's similar. It's only the difference in the processing between your application and database layer. In ECC, less load on database. Here, more load on database. ECC, minimal most maximum processing on your application layer. In HANA, minimal processing on your application layer. So that's the key difference. Okay, we'll move on. So now let's understand most differences most differences between ECC and HANA. Okay, first a difference that I just said. In this is a normal database or a third-party database. This is SQL or Oracle, etc. So all these things are third-party databases, not developed by SAP on its own. But when it comes to HANA system, it is a in-house database which uses RAM. RAM is nothing but random access memory, the same concept of what we have in our mobile phones, right? So the new mobile phones that we are getting right now, there you can convert your RAM into ROM. There is a concept like in new Android phones, if you people are aware of it. So the same concept is being used here too. So because of this RAM concept, the database is much faster. You have faster processing. Then here there is a concept of row store. I'll tell you exactly what a row store means. So row store table concept. There is in HANA it's column store. And here slower processing or slower extraction of data. Here, higher extraction power. Then in ECC, we'll have many categories of tables. Table is nothing but an object which stores your data in the database. So we'll talk about in detail about table when we start our second chapter, that is the data dictionary of objects. In that, we will see how to create a table, the categories of table in detail over there. So here, multiple category of table. Here, only one category. So in ECC, by default, every table is row store. In HANA, by default, we'll have it as a column store, but we can change it to row store, right? So in HANA system, we have that flexibility to change it to a row store table or a column store table. So I'll show you how do you do that when we get into the system and all. But yeah, let's understand in detail. So first, you already know normal databases which uses SQL or Oracle. Since these are third-party databases, SAP cannot totally rely on them, because of which there was an issue in the processing, or we'll have a limitation that you should not put more load on the database. But since HANA is an in-house development done by SAP and they know in and out on how HANA works, we can put more load on database here. And this uses in-memory concept. Memory is nothing but RAM, which because of which it has faster processing power than your normal conventional ECC databases. Then in ECC, we'll have row store table concept. That means, see, when you visualize the data in both ECC system and HANA systems, the way you see the data will remain the same. The screen will remain the same. The data format will remain the same. But in the background, when I'm trying to extract any data, in ECC system, what will it do is it will try to find my record in row manner. So consider this as a table. Consider this as a database table. In this case, if I want to extract, let's say third column or third row here, this one. So here in the input, I'll give as select slower, right? So here I'm having this slower now. So I'll give this keyword like select data from my table wherever there is slower. So what it will do is first it will come here, first line, it will check is slower available here. No, then it will again go down. It is slower available here. No, then it again will go down. Then it will check is slower available here. Yes. Then it will push this data to output. Right. So the finding or this search happens on row wise, one after the other, top to bottom, like this, row wise. Whereas in your HANA system, the search happens on column wise. That means same. If I try to find my slower in by using HANA system, it will try to find it in this way, top to bottom, column wise. Like this column, okay, this column is it having any data? Yes, slower is available here, so it will push it directly. So it will not even go to your second column in this case, because of which it has faster processing power, right? Because it searches in column base, like in this manner, up to down in column vertically. It will search vertically, whereas row store will search horizontally. Because of this key difference, ECC system is having slower processing or slower extraction power, whereas your HANA database has higher extraction power because of the search concept, right? So in ECC, we'll have multiple categories of tables. So when I say categories, these are the database tables which stores your data in the database. So the use of a table is nothing but to store your data in the database, right? So while creating any tables in ECC systems, we'll have in general three categories. I'll not talk you through all those categories though, but yeah, in ECC we'll have three categories. But in HANA system, all those three categories are clubbed into one category. So you'll only have one category in HANA system, one category of tables. Then in ECC system, by default, every table is a row store table. So when you are creating a table, it will not ask whether it should be a row store table or you want it to be a column store table. But in HANA system, by default, it will pick as a column store table. But there is one screen under which you can make it as there is a checkbox. So you just need to check that checkbox if to make it as a column store table or a row store table. So you'll have two checkboxes, either column store or a row store table. So just check it and it will be functioning as that particular category table concept. Yeah. Anyone has any doubts in between ECC or HANA systems? See, from development perspective, you'll not see much of a difference in between ECC and HANA system. It's only on the database, on how things work, on how faster the processing is, on how tightly the integration is. So, though when we go into those concepts only, you'll understand the key difference between ECC and HANA systems. Right? Okay. We'll move on. So, there is a small concept called as a client and server. Right. So first let's see what the server. Is it channel or medium, which we can access SAP system. Server is nothing but in general we'll use the term server, right? Like the server is not working or the server is busy, etc. things. So it's the same. So server is a channel or medium via which we can connect to SAP system. So if we want to log into an SAP system, in that case we'll need one server. So that server uh, it will help you in connecting with it. So you'll get all the server details too. So then it's called as a client. So client is used to segregate or divide a SAP system into multiple parts, and every client will have a different user ID and password. So this is what a client means. So this is used to divide our SAP system into multiple parts. So I cannot show you right now exactly, but when we log into SAP system, first thing that it's gonna ask us is to put in the client. So we'll have to mention the client number there. It will be a 3-digit number. We'll have to put in that number in order to get into the SAP system. So what's exactly the purpose of this client is, let's say we have a development system. Okay, we have development system in which I want to code something, want to write something, develop something, but I cannot do my testing in this client. So because of which, because there is no data available in this client, the data is only available in a different client. In that case, what I'll do is I'll complete my development in this client. I'll test my development in the second client. Or let's say the data in your company is very secure. You want to keep your data secure such that you are as a global client, so the users that are there in India should not access the data that is there in the US, or the users that are there in the US should not access the data of the people sitting in the UK. So in this case, although your database, you cannot create these many databases, right? Databases are expensive. You cannot put one database in each of your location. If you are having 100 location across the globe, you cannot put in 100 databases in each and every location, correct? Because they're expensive to maintain. So for that purpose, we have this client concept, wherein it will divide your database into multiple parts. Like for example, if for India, I'll give 100 client number as 100. So I can only log into 100. So if I try to log into 200, which is a US client, I cannot log in because I don't have access to that particular client. So like this, you can segregate, you can divide your complete information or complete database information into multiple parts. So that is the whole purpose of the client. So when we log into SAP system now, I'll show you exactly where this client is. So in the initial login screen itself, it will ask for the client. Then we'll have let's see the brief introduction about ABAP. Like we have a few statements that we normally use in ABAP. Let's just go through those keywords. So first is called as a select. Second is update. Third is insert. Fourth, modify. Fifth, delete. So this is how your normal coding will also look like, right? I told you, right, it will look like an English. So this is basic English. Select means whenever we want to extract any data from the database, in that case, we will use select. So used to extract data from database. This might look like SQL, but it's not. It's not SQL. It's SAP only. SAP doesn't rely on any other existing coding platforms. It has its own coding platform. Update. Then update is used to change or modify the existing data in the database. So nothing but like same general term in English. Update means change. So similar to here. Used to change the existing data in database. Then insert is nothing but to add a new entry. To add a new entry to database table. Then modify. See, modify and update both are synonymous, right? In general, when we use in English, the both are synonymous, modify or update. But here in SAP, update means it changing the existing record, whereas modify means it acts as both insert and update. So it's a a fusion between these two, like wherein it will behave as both update and insert. So first what it will do is it will try to change the modify the existing data, right? So if I'm passing, let's say, instead of Anil Mishra, change the name of Anil Mishra to something else, like Anil Agarwal, for example. If I want to change this surname of Anil Mishra to Anil Agarwal, first it will try to see if Anil Mishra is available in the system or not. If it's available, then it will modify to Anil Mishra, sorry, Anil Agarwal. If Anil Mishra is not available, then modify will try to insert this data. So instead of ignoring it, modify will add my Anil Agarwal into the system. Whereas update will only check whether Anil Mishra is existing in the system or not. If it's existing, it will modify. If it's not existing, then it will not do anything. It will not insert new record. Right? That is the key difference between your update and modify. So it's used to change the existing data and add new entry if there is no match to the selection criteria, right? So first it will check whether the record is existing in the database or not for me to modify. If it's not there, then I'll insert the new record. So in general, mostly we'll use modify when we are writing the code. Then delete is used to delete the data. These are normal keywords that we use in a map. First, select, which is used to extract my data from the database. Then update, which is used to change my existing data in the database. Then we'll have modify, which acts as both update and insert. First, it will check whether the data is existing in the system or not. First, it will check whether the data is existing in the system or not. If it's existing, then it will modify the existing data, change the existing data. If it's not available, then it will insert the new data. Whatever we are getting from the selection screen, it will insert that data into the database layer. Finally, we have delete, which is used to delete the existing data in the database tables. So simple, you cannot delete something that's not there. No, it will only delete the thing that's already there in your system. Yep. So anyone have any doubts till now? Server, client, or architecture, or keywords in a app? Okay, I'll take it as a no. Okay. So let's quickly revise what we've discussed today. Okay, okay, wait. Let me just show you the what exactly is a table and this one. Right. So first table, we've seen like I've mentioned table many times, right? So first table is nothing but an object or an element that is used to store our data in the database in tabular format. That means consider this as a table. So these are my columns, these are my rows. So columns are called as fields. So in SAP, columns are called as fields, whereas your rows or your actual data is called as a table entries or normal data or table entries. We'll call them as table entries. So this table is used to store our data or information in a tabular format in the on the database. Then what is a database? Database is nothing like a memory card, okay, memory card or uh, pen drive that we use. So it's on a much larger scale. So these are normally R pen drives or in GBs, right? This will be in zettabytes, like very huge memory places. So wherein which is used to store all your organization data. So any data that is there in your organization, for example, all my HR people data, like for example, all the people that are working in my company, all that information, or how many products am I creating in a day, or how many products am I creating in 1 year, all this information, how many machines am I using, how many orders am I getting, what is the capacity of my inventory, all this information. So each and everything from start to end, every information, every piece of data will be stored in your database. So it's nothing but a memory place where your data resides. That's it, nothing else. That's the meaning of database. Yeah. So let's quickly summarize on what we've discussed today. We've seen few important topics. The first one is the R3 architecture or the Tier 3 architecture. It's called as both. So we have seen how is it different in our ECC to our HANA system. So although first the common thing between both ECC and HANA is that presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. All these three layers will remain the same. So the key difference is only in the how the processing happens. So in ECC system, the presentation layer will remain the same, wherein it is used to give the input and see the output. So the concept of presentation layer will stay the same. So in ECC application layer, all the processing or all the logic processing that we want to perform on our data will happen on the application layer, And in database layer, it is only used to extract the data from the database layer, and the focus should be that we should not put more load on the database layer. So database is used to store your data. We will extract the data from the database layer. While extracting the data, we have to make sure that don't put more load on the database. So that's the key concept here. So once your data is extracted, it needs to be processed. If you want to do any post processing after extracting the data, if I want to modify something, if I want to add something, if I want to delete something, so all that happens again in your application layer. So once the processing is completed, once you feel like, okay, yeah, this is what the user wants, this is how the data should be in the output, then you'll push that data to your presentation layer. Again, presentation layer is used to see the output of your data. So this is how a typical ECC architecture will work. In tier 3 architecture, or sorry, HANA tier 3 architecture, it's slightly different. So the layer still remains the same. The presentation layer is still used to see the give the input and see the output, whereas the application layer is used minimal here. So minimal processing happens on your application layer. So and when you try to extract the data from your database layer, you can all, there are few extensions that you can put in that can be used to process your data, do the post processing after extracting the data in the database layer itself, rather than doing your post processing or post logical calculations. You can do all those things on your database layer itself. So here you have the provision of putting more load on the database. Why? Because HANA is a in-house database that was created by SAP, which uses the in-memory concept, which is called as a RAM concept, random access memory concept. Because of this concept, you can put more load in the database here. Yeah, so once that is processed, again that will be sent to application layer for any further processing. Like you have processed 50% of the logic in a database layer, the remaining 50% cannot be processed by using database layer. So that cannot, so those, that logic which cannot be used on database layer will be processed in your application layer. Once the complete processing is completed, it will be sent to your presentation server, which is our front end screen that we see. Then the key differences between our ECC and HANA system on how these things will work. So in ECC, we'll have normal databases, which are third-party databases provided by your SQL, Oracle, etc. And in HANA system, we'll have the in-house database, which was developed by SAP itself, which uses the in-memory concept of RAM to make the faster processing, to make the extraction power faster. So in ECC, we'll have a row store table concept. That means whenever if I'm trying to pull any data from my database, it will try to find my data in a horizontal way, like this, in left to right. It will try to find it like this. This is called as row store table. Whereas in HANA system, it will try to find the data in column wise, in vertical wise. It will try to hit by database in this way, like this, right? So you will not be telling your system to extract the data in this order or that order. Depending on how the table is created in the backend, automatically the search happens. So you will not be controlling the search from your code, but the control of the search happens via the table only. Like if it's a column store table, it will the data search will happen vertical wise. If it's a row store table, the data search will happen in row wise. We will not control it explicitly via our code. We will not. Then in ECC system, we'll have slower processing or slower extraction power, because these are older databases which uses normal concepts, in general concepts, because of which the processing, data extraction is will take more time considerable considered to your HANA system. For example, let's say if I want to extract 10 lakh records of data in ECC system, it will normally take more than 1 hour to get 10 lakh records in the as the output. But whereas your HANA system will take 1/10 of that, it might give me all those 10 lakh records in 10 minutes itself. So that is the key difference between your ECC and HANA system. So it's way much powerful when you try to pull any data from your database. So in ECC system, we'll have multiple categories of tables. We have three categories in general. So these categories of tables are not there in your HANA system. So these three are clubbed into the one category only. So the tables which are available in ECC system are also there in HANA system too, but it's just that the category is changed. So in this, if it's one category, let's say it's the categories, we have A, B, and C. So all the A, B, and C are clubbed together, and there is only one category called as A. in HANA system, right? So the tables are still there, but the category of the table is changed. That's it. Then in ECC system, by default, every table that you create is a row store. You cannot change it to column store. But in HANA system, by default, it will be column store when you create any table. But you have the flexibility, you have the provision to change it to a row store table. There's a checkbox which you have to check, after which it becomes a either a column store or a row store. Then, what is a client and what is a server? So, server is nothing but a medium or a channel via which we can access our SAP systems, right? So from my laptop, like let's say my database is located somewhere in UK, but I want to access my database from sitting in India here. So in that case, I'll have to have one channel via which I can connect to my database, right? So that channel is nothing but your server. It is used to connect your SAP, your system, your laptop to the SAP system. So that's the purpose of your server. You will get your server details and client details once your registration is complete. So that then I can show you exactly how this server concept will work. So there is a concept called as a remote desktop, so via which we will connect to our SAP systems. But yes, you will be getting to know how that works in a couple of days. Then we have a concept of client. So client is used to segregate or divide our SAP system into multiple parts. So again, we've seen an example wherein if you want to put a data security from one region to another region, like a person sitting in India should not access the data that is available in the UK or US. So in that case, I'll create a separate client for all the Indian users, and I'll tell them you should only use this client. Do not log into other clients. Even if you try to log in, it will fail. Your password will not work for other clients. And this password thing and user ID and password thing will either be taken care by our basis team. So told you in the first class, yesterday's class, right? They'll take care of all the database or admin activities. So your passwords and all will be taken care by our basis team or basis of. In few companies there is a team called a security team. Either your basis team or your security team will take care of that. Then we've seen a few keywords in the ABAP. First keyword, select, which is used to pull my data from the database. Second is an update, which is used to change or modify existing data in the database table. Then we have insert, which is used to add new entry to the database table. Then modify, which is first it will try to change the data. If it's existing, it will first find, check whether the data is existing in the system. If the data is existing, it will modify, it will change the existing data. If the data is not existing, if the entry is not there in the database, then it will insert the data into the database. That is the use of modify. Then finally delete, which is used to delete the existing data. So to delete the data should be existing. Then what is a table and what is a database? So table is nothing but an object or an element which is used to store my data in the database in a tabular format. So since the format is tabular, it's called as a tabular format. Then uh, what is a database? So database is nothing but one storage location which is used to store the information about your organization. So from beginning to the end, each and every detail of your organization will be stored on top of your database. So everything will be there in the database. As an ABAPer, our responsibility is that to extract this data from the database and change it a little, like in a user friendly manner, and show it to the output, show it as an output to your user. That is the key responsibility as an ABAPer. So in one line, if I have to say, that's the only responsibility of an ABAPer. That is just to extract the data, pull the data, process the data, do some post processing, and show it as an output. That's it, simple. That's the main purpose of main responsibility of an ABAPer. Yeah. So anyone have any doubts? Okay, I'll take it as a no. So that's all for today.